First things first, any sign of Alexander Isak?
Yes, there is, Joe, and if I step out the way, you'll be able to see him going through the warm-up at the moment with his Liverpool teammates. I don't think there's any real surprise either that he's joining in once again, because he did train with the Liverpool squad on Saturday as well, but Sunday was very much a recovery day with him, so he wasn't part of that squad in the win over Burnley. And Hugo Ekitike again led the line for Liverpool. But you look at the game time that he's had in the last 3.5 months, just 19 minutes, and that came for Sweden against Kosovo during the international break, of course. And that's after not having really a full, proper pre-season, given how things ended at Newcastle. And you look at the fact as well that in terms of what he's been able to produce on the pitch, you have to go back to the end of last season for his last competitive game. His last start in the Premier League, of course, was the final day for Newcastle in the 1-0 defeat to Everton. His last goal was back on May the 4th, the 89th minute penalty to rescue a point for Newcastle at Brighton. Go back to April the 16th for his last goal from open play as well in Newcastle's 5-0 win over Crystal Palace. Now, Arne Slot has told us right from the start that it's going to take a bit of time for him to get up to speed. As I mentioned, he was put through that training session with his teammates at the weekend. But Arne Slot has warned as well that if he plays, say, 45 minutes against Atletico Madrid, not to expect him to play 45 minutes or more in the Merseyside derby, as his body is not quite prepared for that yet. So it is very much a case of getting him up to speed at the moment as well. But yeah, he is out there at the moment. He is training with his Liverpool teammates, and I suppose the likelihood is, or perhaps a little bit more likely than it was at the weekend at least, that he could be involved against Atletico Madrid, at least in some capacity.
And what about Florian Wirtz then, Vinny? Because we clearly know what he's capable of. How important is it that we start to see it for Liverpool in Europe?
Yeah, Florian Wirtz, I think we saw flashes from him at the weekend against Burnley, particularly in that second half, actually. And I was thinking on the way over, actually, how difficult it has been for some players to settle at times when they're making an adjustment. And go back to Xabi Alonso, it took him games to get up to speed as well. It took a while for Liverpool fans really to appreciate someone like Lucas Leiva and what he brought. Jordan Henderson is another, probably over a season or more. Don't forget, he was very nearly sold to Fulham as well before he was fully appreciated here at Liverpool. And thinking of players at other clubs, go back to Robert Perez, even Thierry Henry taking a bit of time to settle into the Premier League as well. So, of course, with the fee, expectation is high on Florian Wirtz. There's a lot of pressure on him as regards that. But I think there is mitigation as well at the moment, because you look at how Liverpool's midfield has been a little bit unsettled perhaps during the start of this campaign. It was Szoboszlai and McAllister who partnered Wirtz in the centre of that midfield on the opening day of the season against Bournemouth, of course, as Gravenberch was suspended at that point. It was Jones and Gravenberch against Newcastle. Szoboszlai at that point was being used as an emergency fullback. McAllister and Gravenberch again against Arsenal and Burnley. Again, Szoboszlai being used as an emergency fullback. But McAllister only lasted an hour against Arsenal and 45 minutes against Burnley as well. Also, you've got to think that it's a case of getting used to someone like Florian Wirtz for the rest of that Liverpool team as well, because for much of last season we saw Dominic Szoboszlai playing in the number 10 role. We know the kind of ground that he covers as well, although we're also seeing Florian Wirtz make the most runs off the ball in the Premier League so far this season, at least before the weekend fixtures. Most runs into the attacking third and most runs ahead of the ball prior to the last round of fixtures, as I say. So that's a positive from his point of view as well. I mentioned the adjustment there. I also think the addition of Isak will help as well, just in creating that little bit more space for someone like Florian Wirtz to operate in as well. So yeah, I think there'll be a fair bit of attention. Maybe the slower pace of European football might help him out in this midweek encounter with Atletico Madrid as well, but I don't think we should be too worried about him just yet.
And of course, selection decisions at fullback as well. Just talk a bit more about those.
Yeah, we saw it at the weekend. Milos Kerkez substituted. I think it was more to make sure that he didn't receive a second yellow card and therefore a red card as well. But it was 38 minutes he was brought off against Burnley, of course. It's 4 Premier League starts since his move to Liverpool. He started in the Community Shield, of course, as well. Played the full 90 against Newcastle and Arsenal. But I mentioned that taken off before half-time against Burnley for simulation. Andy Robertson replaced him. Andy Robertson came on, did well, of course. I think he had the first shot of the game on target as well, showing that he could still offer something of an attacking threat as well as defensively as well. I wonder whether his experiences makes a bit of sense as well against Atletico Madrid. But Andy Robertson himself knows what it's like joining a club like Liverpool. He himself took a while to settle and establish himself as a regular starter at fullback. I spoke to him actually after the game against Burnley. He's got plenty of advice from Milos Kerkez. He knows how good he's going to be, and that he is fully backing him as well to be Liverpool's regular left back in the long term. But again, it's just making that adjustment, I suppose, that step up, because it is a very different environment, with all due respect to Bournemouth as well, of course, as well. But there's a decision at right back as well, because Conor Bradley made his second appearance of the season as a second half substitute against Burnley. Still to start this campaign. Obviously, it's been delayed somewhat by injury. Jeremy Frimpong is back as well. Came on in the 87th minute against Burnley. His first minute since going off on the hour mark in the opening game against Bournemouth with that hamstring injury as well. So he's back, and it looks as though he's ready to at least again offer something from the bench, if not starting against Atletico Madrid. But that's the good news for Liverpool. It's looking like they're getting back to a full complement of players now once again.
Vinny, you've covered much of it there, but what else should we be looking out for when we hear from the coaching captain later today?
Well, actually, I've just noticed as well that Curtis Jones is not out there at the moment. We had been given a hint that maybe Curtis would be joining in training, albeit the Atletico Madrid game would probably be too soon for him. But it looks like that groin injury is still just keeping him out of first-team training at the moment. But I think a lot of what we talk about with Arne Slot will come down to form as well. It's still a 100% start to the Premier League season for Liverpool. That is intact after the victory over Burnley. The last time they won the first four in the Premier League, they went on to win the title back in 2020, of course, but it was another late show needed, and we saw Mo Salah have a very, very quiet game by his standards against Burnley, but there he was to have that composure to rifle home the penalty 5 minutes into stoppage time to take all 3 points. It's the fourth successive game as well in which Liverpool have scored a winner after the 80th minute, and that's the first time that's happened in Premier League history as well. So we've seen the mentality from Liverpool. What we're not necessarily seeing is the dominant performances that Arne Slot would want. Andy Robertson made that point as well. It's great that they've got the mentality to grind out these wins. These are the kind of wins they need if they're going to go on and win the title, but they also feel that they need an improvement in form and to be that little bit more dominant in terms of being able to put teams away. Against Burnley, they had so much possession but didn't really create an awful lot. So I think that's the one thing that they'll be looking to improve moving forward now as well. Making that possession count, creating the chances and finishing teams off, and being that little bit more dominant in terms of the results, and not having to wait for late winners to get them over the line. But at the moment, as you can probably see as well from the pictures that we're showing you, the mood around this place is pretty good, and not surprisingly, given that 100% start to the Premier League season.
OK, Vinny, brilliant stuff. Thank you very much for now.